In a previous video, I covered the best practices for accessibility, and I will link to that video below. But now let's discuss the worst values in accessibility. And when I say worst values, where is your time, money, and energy worst spent? Number one on the list is with overlays. So overlays, any type of widgets or plugins that claim to be an instant solution and make your website instantly accessible, or automate accessibility, or make your website ADA compliant. Anything of that sort in that category has a negative value associated with it. And the reasons are several. And let's just start with this. Overlay widgets do not make your website accessible. They do not make your website ADA compliant, and they do not prevent litigation. And we know this because there are literally hundreds of documented instances where a website owner has had an overlay widget installed and yet nevertheless been sued. So for those reasons, overlays are number one. Number two are lawyer audit packages. And I have audit in quotes because these are not audits. These are free scans packaged together and sold to clients, and you can run a scan yourself for free, and the lawyers will sell these audit packages, and again, audit in quotes, as a way to prevent litigation. But litigation, as we've seen and as I've covered in this channel, plaintiffs' lawyers are looking well beyond scan results in making claims of inaccessibility for websites. So while this method may have been effective years ago, it is no longer effective. Number three is paid scans. So with paid scans, you might think that the difference between a paid and a free scan is that the paid scan will return more results. It will identify more accessibility issues. That's not the case. The main difference between a free scan and a paid scan is that a paid scan can span an entire website. So let's say your website's 25 pages. With a paid scan, you may be able to scan your entire website all at once. With a free scan, you're limited to single URLs. But here's where this falls apart for paid scans. Practically, you can only take action on one or maybe 2 pages at a time. You can't take action on an entire website scan. So whether your website's 25 pages or 50 pages, it really doesn't matter because you can't take action on those scan results. Now the one instance where paid scans can return some value is where you have pages that are behind a login, so pages that require authentication. In that case, there are some scans that can actually log in and they will scan the page. But the problem is that price might be prohibitive to where it offsets that any benefit there, and it offsets that, and it really doesn't return much of a value. And remember that scans are limited to begin with. They're only going to flag about 25% of accessibility issues. And that's one of the problems with scans, is that they're oversold, and many people think that they do more than they do. Scans are limited, they are helpful, but they are not conclusive of accessibility. They can contain false negatives, and again, they only flag about 25% of accessibility issues per WCAG 2.188. Next on the list, I have monitoring. And so monitoring is really a product of a scan. So with monitoring, you will get an update or an alert anytime a new accessibility issue it comes up on a scan. And so you might get the alert through email, you might get the alert through a dashboard, and you will know when a new accessibility issue is introduced. But this is problematic for a few reasons. One is because you really shouldn't be introducing new accessibility issues at this point. If you are invested enough to where you are purchasing monitoring, you should also be invested enough to where you are not introducing new accessibility issues. So you should have some kind of process in place where your team is not publishing content or uploading code and publishing that live to the website where there are accessibility issues in that code or in that content. Also, again, we go back to the limitations of scans. You might have this false sense of security with monitoring that you know anytime an accessibility issue is introduced, but you really don't because scans are so limited. So monitoring, again, there could be some nominal benefit here, but it's usually going to be offset by the cost because monitoring either there may be a significant upfront cost and or a subscription involved. I mean, there will be a subscription involved because it's continuing monitoring, but even if you were to purchase that subscription for a year, the value really isn't going to be there. And then last on this list is Employment Liability Practices Insurance, otherwise known as EPLI. So insurance is attractive. Many people would like to insure against litigation because it is so rampant, and nobody wants to face the cost of litigation without having something to offset that. The problem is when I was looking into EPLI, and I will link to a video I have on this, the cost associated with EPLI, the premiums and the deductible really makes it a wash. It really doesn't make that much sense to have EPLI relative to the cost. You're really better off investing in accessibility. So purchasing an audit and then having your website undergo remediation, and really any other investments into accessibility. So training, education, whatever it is, you're better off putting that money towards accessibility because then you're going to have real insurance, and it's going to be evergreen in the sense that you don't have to keep purchasing it over and over again. If your website is WCAG conformant, the likelihood that you receive a demand letter or have a complaint filed against you is quite low, and your ability to dismiss any litigation at that point would be quite high, because what accessibility issues would there really be for a plaintiff's law firm to cling on to if your website is fully WCAG conformant? So that's why I think the best choice is to invest in accessibility rather than insurance. So look into the cost, but if you look into the cost, do a risk reward and just determine if there's value there. And I don't think there is, so that's why I have EPLI as number 5 on the list. But these to me are the worst values in accessibility. I will link to that best value in accessibility, and one of those best values is education and training. I do have an ADA compliance course, and I also have my WCAG course, and I will link to those below.